Now, former Trump advisor Steve Bannon has a bold prediction about what he believes will finally destroy support for President Trump in even the most ardent MAGA defender. Well, now this is interesting. So this is in a new book by Fire and Fury author Michael Wolff. Bannon is quoted several times, just like he was in the original book, speaking this time about the investigations into President Trump, which could end a lot of his support among the base. Now, in it, he said that he believes that one of these investigations, not the Mueller investigation, but one of the ones into his finances, will reveal his family business as what he calls a, quote, semi-criminal enterprise. Fascinating. Now, let me give you the full quote here. He said, quote, Trump was vulnerable because for 40 years he had run what increasingly seemed to resemble a semi-criminal enterprise. Now, that was actually Michael Wolff, right? Now, Bannon had cut in and said, quote, I think we can drop the semi part. Damn. Okay. So now, I mean, look, he's not wrong. When you look at Trump's history, you realize he's not a good, legitimate businessman. I mean, he bankrupted a casino. How do you do that? The House always wins. He not only that, but he lost over $1 billion in 10 years, according to leaked tax records. He's an idiot of monumental proportions. Most banks will not even touch him. They stop lending to him, right? It's only a couple of banks. Deutsche Bank, which, by the way, is getting their records subpoenaed. So they're going to have access to those records and things like that. Those are the only ones that would loan him money. And now, of course, nobody lets him build any buildings because every time he'd build a building, he would go bankrupt. And now they only offer him licensing deals, which, by the way, the name, that's what he would license out as his name to put a Trump on a hotel or a building or whatever. Now, at this point, I don't think anybody would even take his name for a toilet because of how irreversibly tainted that name is. So look, if you suck at being a legitimate businessman, which Donald Trump does, how are you going to keep up your lavish Trump lifestyle? Well, number one, and this was in a report in the New York Times, you turn to daddy, as he did very, very often. Continued to borrow money, continued to lean on his family fortune that was not his, and that's how he continued to live his lifestyle until his father died. And then he inherited what was left. Now, when that's gone, what do you turn to? You turn to scams. Trump University comes to mind when thinking about scams. You also had the Trump Foundation, which, by the way, both of those things were shut down because of shady, scammy behavior. Altogether, Trump and his businesses, and this is just the overall, right? Altogether, have been involved in at least 3,500 legal actions in federal and state courts during the past 3 decades. That is a long history of scamminess. He is a scam artist. He is a charlatan. And going back to what Wolff said, he had run what they called a semi-criminal enterprise. And it is very telling that Bannon, who worked for Donald Trump and is not a good person overall, who has been helping the far right try to win in Europe, and goes further and says, no, it's not a semi-criminal enterprise. It is a criminal enterprise. Now that, of course, leads me to what he thinks will be the end of Donald Trump. Bannon said that these investigations into Trump's finances, the thing that I've been harping on all along, that I was afraid the Mueller report was not going to get into, and shocker, it didn't get into, his finances. Now, Bannon said those investigations would turn out to show that Trump is not as wealthy as he claims to be. Here's Bannon's direct quote on that. Quote, "This is where it isn't a witch hunt. Even for the hardcore, this is where he turns into just a crooked business guy and one worth $50 million instead of $10 billion. Not the billionaire he said he was, just another scumbag." Oh, that's good. Oh, that's real good. Just another scumbag. And this is coming from a scumbag. Even the scumbag says, whoa, that guy's a scumbag. Wow. And look, why does that matter? Why is that so important? It's because right now, Donald Trump still has the myth of the self-made man behind him, at least when it comes to MAGA circles, right? Now, as long as we're in the dark about how much money he actually has, then he can keep up that myth by attacking speculation as, oh, it's fake news. They're trying to attack me. They're trying to bring me down. They're trying to say I'm not successful, but I'm super successful. I'm the greatest businessman. I make great deals, the best ever. Well, why can't we see them? Because it's private. Well, you can't prove it, but that's not enough for me, but it may be enough for the MAGA guys out there that are like, no, what are you talking about? He says he's a businessman and he's incredibly wealthy. Then he's a businessman and he's incredibly wealthy and makes great deals. All right, well. But the thing is when those investigations find out that he is not as rich as he claims to be, and the reason that I believe that this will be the case is, again, look at all the scams he's had to perpetuate. Look at all the taxpayer money that he has had to funnel into his pockets. You don't do that if you're wealthy. If you're a billionaire, you don't try to put money in your own pocket by scamming people up. He scammed the Freedom Girls. I don't know if you remember that. During the campaign, he hired these young girls, the Freedom Girls, right? And he ended up not paying them. And he has a history of not paying people. What kind of billionaire doesn't pay people? I mean, like, it's almost like he's trying to duck out on bills, right? That is the mark of a scam artist. And again, not only is he a scam artist, which we already know, but he's also terrible at it, just like everything. And of course, that means he's not as rich as he claims. Now, once that happens, people are going to finally realize that Donald Trump is basically a complete and utter fraud. Now, Steve Bannon believes that that's going to be enough to shake even the most MAGA guy to the core. And why is that? It's because these MAGA guys, they follow him because they want to be him. They want to be rich. They want to have the power, right? They want to be the alpha male. They want to be in charge. And Donald Trump represents everything that they aspire to be. President of the United States, wealthy, in charge, doesn't care about anything that, doesn't get affected by anything people say about him. Even though, of course, he's incredibly, very, very thin-skinned, right? But see, the thing is, if Donald Trump turns out to be another not so wealthy, maybe semi-wealthy cuck, well, then it's over. And that's assuming the criminal investigations don't get him first, which is always a possibility. And I know there are MAGA guys out there furiously typing with their computers right now about how much of a libtard I am. And I know nothing, but look, I know the truth. You guys are scared that it's true, that everything you've come to idolize in Donald Trump is a complete fraud. And if that happens, where does that leave you? Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.